I'm really excited to introduce our second reader today, Burgi Zenhaeusern. She is the author of White Door, which came out this year from Carbonation Press, and she's also the author of a chapbook called Behind Normalcy, which won the Harris Poetry Prize. She's co-edited translations in an anthology called Knocking on the Door of the White House, and her work most recently has appeared in Diagram, Glass, JMWW, and as a Broadside from Ashland Poetry Press, which is just so cool. I love that. I love that press. She is originally from Switzerland, but she now lives in Washington D.C. So join me in welcoming Burgi. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for being here and listening and waiting. And thank you, Smartish Pace and Bird in Hand, and for all you do. By way of introduction, I read you something from the thank yous of this book, because it expresses the sentiments and feelings I have about living here in this country. So here it goes. Emigration disrupts a life in fundamental ways, even under the most auspicious circumstances, which mine certainly were. I received the welcome and respect that isn't, but ought to be everyone's due who enters the US regardless. What's more, I was afforded time and space to evolve from homesickness. Along the way, I've got to know, hear, learn of, and from so many people who wittingly or unwittingly have made this country come alive for me, who have complicated ideas of home and leaving it, of a people calling themselves Americans, and of their histories, who have been and keep doing so. You are this country, this land of nations, which have existed since long before colonies, let alone the United States, were even a thought. I'm endlessly grateful to each one of you. So, I was in this country before as a baby, 5 months old, until I was a year and a half. My dad was a chemist, and he was invited to the Research Triangle in North Carolina. America. Either because their awareness was assumed or the matter a taboo, or both. No one prepared my Swiss parents for early 60s Durham, North Carolina segregation. And when a black pedestrian crossed the street in order not to cross, my white pram-pushing mom with white baby me, she took it personally. Equally clueless, she wouldn't accept that insisting to the black client ahead of her to not step aside was dangerous to the client, until faced with steely refusal, her self-righteousness folded. I don't know how many a black person it took to show her the ways our whiteness mattered. There was no escaping it. Did she wonder aloud in her white circle of recent acquaintances? Maybe she did, or maybe she let the talk lead where it may. Jackie Kay, kids, beautiful Switzerland, the president's assassination. She had some questions of her own, Where to find bread that didn't disintegrate in her hands? Rat and roach poison. Did she mention the paint-stuck windows in their upstairs rental? The grimy trash can turned amanita with a hole in its bottom after a few scrubbings. She must have had a laugh. She must have laughed at the discovery. Maybe they all had a good laugh. Meanwhile, I was likely napping in an adjacent room in my carrier, always brought along, what with the open gas flames, oblivious. She ended up baking her own bread, wrote many letters home, learned to drive under Dad's withering lead, and read to me, nestled in her lap from a tiny mother goose in her accented English. Grey tones and whites in Dad's photo. They didn't stay, though invited due to his research on an indigo dye. Pregnant again, Mom yearned to leave. Meanwhile, I had taken my first steps in Central Park, on Memorial Bridge. Back home again, America reverted to America. Stories and a myth in well-kept slides, cherished showings, none revealing a sign of segregation. It was their happiest time, the only happy time in my parents' marriage. And now, one for my grandparents, maternal grandparents. My grandpa was a painter. This poem can be read in 2 columns or a cross. I read the braided version. Portrait of my grandma as a young woman. Trees in February. My grandpa's lines, the hem they make, in ink so tremulous against the cold. It's hard to believe my grandma was young, evenings turquoise, in that portrait. Hard to believe, antennae in the bluster. They came from the hand of the forceful strokes I had known him for, as if his nib obeyed a trembling caress. Along her face and neck, his thumb gently rubbing such filigreed softness into the silk assurance of her collar, obeyed his slowly disappearing breathing behind the porch light. And another winter poem, this for my husband. A certain brightness. Icy droplets against off-whites bead along the maple's slender branches. Bird shapes among the dry brown azalea twitch and hop. You bustle and shuffle as I try to be still. Small irritations many times a day. Warmth pushes through the ducts. We wear soft layers, stay inside mostly. I ask my love for you often. The droplets shimmer, glass clear, in low light. My husband grew up in a country that had a dictator when he was a child. It has a dictator again. And this poem is about a clothes store called What Shall I Wear? So that's the Spanish in it. La tienda que me pongo. En la tienda que me pongo, I'm undecided, thirsty with hot flashes, a light head, up and down limbo, la, Tienda que me pongo, the name of a boutique in the city of your childhood, or so you remember. La tienda que me pongo, language, harmless joke in the eyes of a dictator's thugs, unforgiving of any other. En la tienda que me pongo, our silliness, sound and music, your soft teasing, code for plenty. And now, I believe, one for my child, when they were a baby, like barely able to sit, certainly not talking. Along parallel solitudes. In the park on a blanket, you babbled, I responded, we were silent. You slowly lowered your soft palm towards the blades, eyes fixed on my face for a prompt or a warning I didn't give. You continued. Grass, I answered your startle. And this is called Mobile, and it's about the feeling I have as a mother watching my child suffer. Mobile, and it's in the shape of a mobile. Wire bent and twisted long ago in your child hands to a delicate object I point to. Red, black, and blue cutouts turning. Image for your brain, or rather, its fragile balance. You don't seem to hear my words, don't see the mobile turned and turning. I'm there, you're in pain, and I can't reach you, reach through your beautifully imperfect mobile to you. Shudders through the wet azalea, leaves bouncing back, small incidents of easing. The rain stopped. We are here. You are in pain. Now my last poem might be about language and writing, whatever. Morning swim. To breathe in my mother's music, I learned to push even columns into the flute. Sarabands, minuets, jigs, danced and paused, danced, to breathe inseparable. I dreamed her dream until I didn't, and left. On virtual boardwalks toward a ridged horizon, I click like and sigh. Trees cloister my view here, my heart for distance. From my mother's ear for sound and cadence, I learned to love our language. Left to breathe in another, I push through. Chlorinated water past the hair and leaves, push, reach, push. The sun above, an incandescent net below, a star. Thank you.